and we're
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Lynda Airriess, and I'm here to talk briefly about my Capstone project. Before I go any further, I would like to thank the Reverend Dr. Rob Fennell, who mentored and supported me on my research journey that has led to today's presentation. Thank you so much, Reverend Rob. The thesis of my paper is reflected in its title. Can robots or digital persons be baptized into the Christian faith? How AI has altered the Christian perception and experience of Christ. My paper argues that AI technologies support the transformation and/or abandonment of humanism, undermining the salvific gospel message by radically altering the Christian perception and experience of Christ. However, the overall purpose of my research paper is broader than the narrow aim of its thesis. Its greater purpose is to encourage Christian leaders to explore the issue of the inclusion of robots, digital, or other non-biological humanoids into the Christian faith. Sooner than many may realize, ministers and priests will be asked to include non-biological humanoids into their communities. My research realizes that the response to include non-biological humanoids in faith communities will vary. The theologies of more traditional faith expressions will likely stay exclusively human, and I briefly outline why this is so in my paper. However, my research has led me to conclude that contemporary faith expressions will likely need to at least consider opening the doors to non-biological humanoids. With this in mind, it is important that Christian leadership and denominations be prepared in advance for this issue and all of the other associated theological questions that go with it. We have seen in the past that when churches wait to respond to social issues of inclusion, the result is often deep divisions and discord, which can cause many to abandon the faith. This is an outcome that everyone here should wish to avoid, and it was my primary motivation in trying to tackle this topic. When AI was first monetized and introduced to the world, the handwriting appeared on the wall. This was made especially apparent once people started to seriously engage with AI companions as counselors, friends, and lovers. These significant social changes caused by AI are not science fiction. They are happening right now, and they are happening at a distressingly rapid pace. I was aware that the Vatican is also taking this issue seriously, and I began my research by investigating the doctrinal document Nova et Antiqua. This document, released in January 2025, addresses the development and use of AI in a social context, focusing on the relationship between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. Its position is that AI must be recognized as a tool that supports rather than replaces human intelligence. However, I soon began to realize that this document, lengthy as it is, does not make the core issues immediately clear. I began to worry that by relying on this document alone, my paper would simply end up parroting popular news feeds that often warn of the impending AI doom. My paper would be a Chicken Little capstone project. Yet I kept picking away at my research threads until I finally had my eureka moment. This eureka moment, or epiphany, was the moment that I realized that AI itself was not the doorway to the future, but that it was both the catalyst and the key that opened the door to humanity's next evolutionary phase. Using the scholarship of Vatican academic Father Michael Bego, who is an associate professor of bioethics at the Athenaeum Regina Apostolarium and a professor of theology at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas and the Catholic Institute of Technology as a guide, I unlocked and opened this door and entered into a vast ideological landscape composed of two strong competing social movements. These movements are transhumanism and critical posthumanism. These social movements are the ideological successors or replacements of humanism, and they are not Christian compatible. However, the replacement of humanism by either transhumanism or critical posthumanism seems to have been progressing quickly, but not at supersonic speeds before the advent of AI. However, once AI was unleashed within general society, it began accelerating humanity into the future at a dizzying pace. This is because AI fits seamlessly into the networks of transhumanism and critical posthumanism, thus creating the ultimate challenge to the survival of Christianity post-Christendom. To address this issue, I divided my paper into two main parts, and each main part is further divided into subdivisions. The first part provides the necessary contextual background to frame my discussion. It begins by very briefly outlining some of the ways AI is already influencing the direction of our faith development, music, education, biblical exegesis, and pastoral care. It is plausible that the next generation of pastors will not need to develop the same scriptural and pastoral interpretive skills that all of us have had to develop as we train for either ministry or theological studies. AI can do it all for us. My paper continues its contextual discussion by explaining and exploring the ideologies of transhumanism and critical posthumanism. I found Dr. Alexander Thomas's book, The Politics and Ethics of Transhumanism, Techno-Human Evolution and Advanced Capitalism, extremely important for this phase of my research, as it offers a secular overview of transhumanism and critical posthumanism outside of a religious context. However, I highly recommend Human Flourishing in a Technological World, a Theological Perspective, edited by Dr. John Zimmerman for a Christian perspective. Dr. Zimmerman is a theologian and philosopher currently at both Regent College and Trinity Western University in Langley, BC. And his book is a collection of essays from a wide variety of scholars who address this topic. Zimmerman himself is credited as the creator of incarnational humanism. And for anyone researching this topic, his scholarship must be considered. However, the narrow focus of my paper meant that I needed to pull back and keep my overview of transhumanism and critical posthumanism brief. But I wanted to continually draw attention to their relationship to humanism, and I refer to them as H plus and H minus throughout my paper to demonstrate this. Transhumanism, H plus, takes humanism to the next level by augmenting the human via pharmaceutical or technological means. Similar to humanism, H plus is anthropocentric, but its main aim is advancing its ideologies of its three supers: super longevity, super intelligence, and super happiness. Transhumanism sees death as avoidable, and it is strongly supported by the world's most influential super elite, the Silicon Valley tech bros. For example, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. On the other hand, critical posthumanism, H minus, seeks to negate the humanist landscape. It views the category of human as a social construct, and its main aim is to eliminate anthropocentrism via blending away all binary divisions. The two binary divisions of concern to my research are the blending of the categories of life and death, as well as man and machine. H minus has strong support within academia, particularly within the social sciences and humanities, and it is known for its strong anti-H plus opinion. However, H plus and H minus meet together and support each other by promoting the blending of man and machine. The reason for H plus is to create a better humanoid, and the reason for H minus is to dismantle the division between the two categories. And AI is the technology that makes this possible. The second main part of my paper demonstrates how traditional Christian theologies are not compatible in a social world that operates within a transhumanist or critical posthumanist landscape. I do this by heading straight to the core of traditional Christianity, by focusing on the topics of salvation, salvation's relationship to death, and the anthropocentric core of Christianity within the cosmology of the early church. I bring to the forefront that traditional Christianity is a religion inseparable from the human form and the human condition. I also speculate that in order for traditional Christianity to survive, it must relocate its reflection of God away from the intellect and towards its biological human form and its intuitive forms of knowledge. I turn to scripture and use the creation of humankind in Genesis, the weeping and gnashing of teeth in Matthew, and Jesus' walk on the water to support my ideas. I also move towards demonstrating that in our modern context, AI as an integrative presence within the ideologies of H plus and H minus create an implicit and virtual AI Christ that overshadows Jesus Christ within our faith. The AI Christ creates a new Christian experience that does not necessarily require a church or a belief in anything other than science and the universe. It is a contemporary Christianity that cannot say no to the inclusion of non-biological humanoids. I would like to take a few moments now to show you some slides that I made that might help demonstrate what I've tried to say today. And let's see, does anyone see a slide? Waiting for some feedback. Do you see the slide or no?
We don't see your slide.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah,
Or do you see my laptop or my desktop?
we see your desktop.
Well, that's just dandy, isn't it? Okay.
Your slide was there a moment ago, Lynda.
And then it just disappeared. In fact, I have lost my whole screen as well. And it is showing my desktop clearly here. You know, I tried this before and
From my end, I'm just going to stop your screen share so that you can try to screen share again.
okay. All right. Let me close some windows here. Okay. Sorry for this. Like I said, we tried this earlier and I was all good to go. And then, of course, technology plays its tricks. Okay, how about now?
We're good. Yeah.
All right, okay. This is just a nice little visual presentation of this charming little guy here to help us along. But here's what I want to show you here. So in this slide, you can see that I have transhumanism, H+, as a blue gear, critical posthuman, H- as a green gear, and AI, down there, purple, driving both gears. Now, it is driving both gears in the directions that they want to go, which is counter to each other. But it does create a consistent ideological movement of all of these three pieces working together seamlessly. And humanism isn't part of it. In the second part of this slide, you can see a typical Venn diagram here, where I show that AI is the sort of catalyst or the agent bringing these two together. Okay. These two in some ways, very different ideological forms, but in other ways, yes, similarities exist. So there it is as a lightning bolt. And hopefully that might be helpful to some of you to conceptualize. This slide looks at the relationship between traditional Christianity, humanism, transhumanism, and critical posthumanism. So having just a brief look at it, you can see as we move forward how the X's come to dominate. Modern humanism, although it is often looked at as not being friendly towards Christianity, it spoke the same language. It operated within the same large ideological concepts, and that was that it's anthropocentric, life is finite, and death is infinite. A point that always led to discussions and debates between atheists and believers is the recognition in the divine. That didn't fit. But overall, the two could work together. And it was in this context of traditional Christianity meeting modern humanism that I would argue that the contemporary Christianity begins to take form and take root as they dialogue between each other. However, transhumanism, H+, well, it is anthropocentric, and that's about it. However, critical posthumanism, they have no point of contact. There is nothing, no bridges to build. Contemporary Christianity is a little different. And as I said with the previous slide, you can see how close the relationship is between contemporary Christianity and modern humanism. Transhumanism, the only main issue is that life is finite, death is infinite, because for the transhumanism world, it isn't. We could, and they hope for us to live together. Already, certainly they are working towards us humans being able to upload their consciousness into digital forms or into robotic forms. People right now are doing this with the death of perhaps a spouse. They provide a collection to an AI component who recreates their personality. But they do want to go beyond that with their research, where they're actually able to capture the consciousness of that person. And therefore, that person then can stay alive forever. Critical posthumanism does have one point, and that is the recognition of the universe as the supreme force above humanity. So those were my two little slides there, and hopefully that was a little bit helpful. of what I wanted to say. And yeah, I think I can quit sharing now. And I would like to go back to my notes if I can find them. Here they are here. Okay, so I am sure that despite my best efforts, that for many of you, you might still consider my capstone project as a Chicken Little project. But I really want to point out this is not the case. Our news feeds are full of stories that clearly point out the handwriting is on the wall. People are marrying their digital companions. Due to the time constraints and limits of my project, my paper only introduces the reader to these ideas and a few of its key issues. But I hope that some of you listening to my presentation today will decide to research this area further in order to build a body of knowledge on the topic of non-biological humanoids and their relationship to Christianity, both traditional and contemporary. Christian leadership needs to be prepared. Christian leadership needs to be thinking about this. AI is not going away, and neither is transhumanism or critical posthumanism. It is the perfect storm. AI, transhumanism, and critical posthumanism, and navigating Christianity through these waters is not for the faint of heart. In the words of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, we are not in Kansas anymore. But furthermore, for the first time, we are not alone. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation today, and I hope that you have enjoyed some of my ideas and will think about this in the future.